My daughter, she said, holding Fudia's hands, we sent you to the city to build a future, not to lose yourself. Welcome to the Hidden Voice, the home of African Folktales channel. Once upon a time, in a small, humble village called Fudia, there lived a girl named Fudia. She was the youngest of 5 children, born to parents who worked tirelessly on the land to provide for their family. Though they had little, they were rich in love and wisdom. Fudia was a bright and ambitious girl. She loved to read under the big mango tree, where she often dreamed of a future where she could lift her family out of poverty. One day I will go to the city, study hard, and bring change to our village, she would say. Her parents, though reluctant to let her go, saw her potential. With great sacrifice, they gathered their savings to send her to the city, where knowledge and opportunity awaited. In the village of Fudia, sending a child to the city for education was a rare and difficult feat. Most families could barely afford their daily meals, let alone the expenses of city life. But when Fudia passed her exams with the highest marks, the entire village saw her as their hope, the one who would break the cycle of poverty. The village elders, wise and respected, gathered under the old bamboo tree to discuss her future. Our daughter Fudia is the brightest among us, said Chief Kande, the eldest of the council. She has been given a gift, and we must not let it go to waste. If she succeeds, she will bring change not just to her family, but to all of us. But how can we afford it? Asked old Mama Jillo. Her parents are poor, and the city is expensive. One by one, the villagers stepped forward, offering what little they had. The blacksmith donated a portion of his earnings from selling tools. The farmers gathered sacks of rice and ground nuts to send with her. The weavers offered pieces of cloth that she could sell if she ever needed money. Even the fishermen, though struggling themselves, gave dried fish to sustain her journey. The village elders, despite their own hardships, pooled their savings and presented it to Fudia's parents. This is all we can offer, they said, but it is enough to get her started. Fudia's father, holding back tears, bowed deeply. We will never forget your kindness. Fudia will make us all proud. As Fudia prepared to leave, the entire village gathered to send her off. The elders placed their hands on her head and blessed her. Go with wisdom, they said. Do not be swayed by the city's distractions. Remember us, and when you succeed, return to lift your people. With those words, Fudia boarded the old bus, carrying not just her books and belongings, but the weight of an entire village's hopes and dreams. When Fudia arrived in city, she was overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of the bustling streets. Tall buildings stretched into the sky, cars speed past in a blur, and lights flickered like stars at night. It was nothing like her quiet village. First, she remained focused on her studies, living modestly in a small room shared with other village girls who had come for the same purpose. She attended classes diligently, writing letters home to her parents, assuring them of her progress. The villagers were filled with hope. Whenever the postman arrived, Fudia's parents rushed to receive her letters, eager to hear of her progress. Her words reassured them. I am studying hard, Mama. The city is big, and life is not easy, but I will not fail you. Soon, I will finish school and send money home. Our struggles will end. Each time they read her letters aloud, the village rejoiced. The elders would nod in satisfaction, telling the young ones, You see, hard work and education bring success. But as time passed, the letters became less frequent. Then, they stopped altogether. They made excuses for her. She must be busy with exams, her father said. City life is demanding, her mother added. But the doubts grew. Rumors began to spread. A young man who had traveled to the city returned with troubling news. I saw Fudia, but not in school, he whispered to the elders. She was dressed in fine clothes, riding in expensive cars. I fear she has lost her way. The elders were silent. The villagers exchanged worried glances. Had they sacrificed their hard-earned money for nothing? Months turned into years. Fudia never returned, and the dreams they had once pinned on her began to fade. Her father, once so proud, now sat in silence each evening, staring at the road where she had last walked. Her mother wept at night, whispering prayers that her daughter would find her way back. The villagers, once hopeful, now spoke of her with disappointment. They murmured, "She was our brightest star, yet she has forgotten us. We gave her everything, but she gave us nothing in return." The elders, saddened but wise, gathered once more under the bamboo tree. "We cannot force a person to remember their roots," Chief Kande said, "but let this be a lesson to us all. Education is a gift, but without discipline, it is wasted." And so the village carried on, their hopes now placed in other children, but with a heavy heart for the one who had been their greatest promise and their deepest sorrow. One evening, as she walked home from school, she met a woman named Fanta. Fanta was dressed in bright clothes, her jewelry sparkling under the streetlights. She seemed to command attention wherever she went. "You look tired, my dear," Fanta said, smiling. "Why do you struggle so much when the city has everything to offer?" Fudia hesitated. "I came to study. My family sacrificed a lot for me to be here." Fanta laughed softly. "Books will not feed you, my girl, but I know a way you can make money, wear beautiful clothes, and live like a queen." Fudia was unsure, but as the days passed, city life grew harder. Money was always short. Her books were old, and sometimes she went to bed hungry. One night, when her roommates were asleep, she thought of home, her mother's tired hands, her father's worried face. She wanted to help them, but how could she when she barely had enough for herself? Fanta's words echoed in her mind, and so she made a decision that changed her life forever. It started with few parties. Fanta introduced Fudia to men who bought her gifts, gave her money, and treated her like a queen. The more she accepted, the further she drifted from her studies. Soon, she stopped going to class altogether. The city had swallowed her whole. Fudia began living in luxury, wearing expensive clothes, riding in flashy cars, and dining in places she once only saw in magazines. "Fudia," her mother prayed, "let my daughter not forget where she came from." Years passed, and the city that had once embraced Fudia now began to turn its back on her. The men who once adored her grew tired. The money stopped flowing as freely. She had abandoned school, and without an education, she had no way of standing on her own. Her beauty, once her greatest weapon, began to fade under the weight of exhaustion and regret. One night she sat alone in her lavish but empty apartment. The laughter, the parties, the excitement, it had all disappeared. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a stranger. Tears filled her eyes. "What have I done?" she whispered. With nothing left, Fudia decided to return to Bafodia. But when she arrived, the village that had once been her home felt different. The people whispered as she passed. Children stared. Her father, now older, looked at her with sad eyes. Her mother, though overjoyed to see her, could not hide her disappointment. "My daughter," she said, holding Fudia's hands, "we sent you to the city to build a future, not to lose yourself." Fudia fell to her knees, sobbing. "I was blinded, Mama. I wanted to help, but I lost my way." Her mother wiped her tears and said, "The city is not evil, my child, but forgetting your purpose is. The road back will not be easy, but if you are willing, you can rebuild." Fudia never regained the life she once dreamed of, but she found a new purpose. She stayed in Bafodia, teaching young girls about the dangers of losing oneself in temptation. Her story became a lesson, passed from mother to daughter. And so, the people of Bafodia never forgot the girl who went to the city in search of a dream but lost herself along the way. And they taught their children, the city shines bright, but not all that glitters is gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy the story and want to hear more amazing African folktales, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive and bring our rich culture to the world. Until next time, stay inspired and keep the stories flowing.